Hey guys, how you doing? It's Sean with the Rebel Filmmaking Community. I'm here with the one, the only, well, the triple champ, Jordan
Come
Wiseley.
on!
I could go on and on. The show's called Multi-Hyphenate. He's a business owner. He's a fashionista. I say fashionista in the masculine because we've got a very masculine man here. He's a television star. He's an actor. He's a professional athlete. Now a professional race car driver. He's a home builder, a pool builder, and a set designer. Thank you for being here, my brother, my friend, Jordan Wiseley.
I'm so excited to be here, dude. That's probably the best intro I've ever gotten on any podcast. So thank you so much. Thank you for
Oh,
having
of
me, dude.
course.
Uh, it's been
Oh, dude.
it's been super fun to like watch this grow. So I was excited to get the call and like my turn. Like you're up, buddy. I was like, yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to get a few on the books before I had you on. And I fucking love you, man. Like, all those things I listed are just things that you do. But really, you're like such a teacher to me. You're such a great role model and one of the best friends I could ever ask for. You're a brother. And I mean that in every sense of the word. So thank you, man. Like,
No,
you're just such a really good guy.
thank you. That I just want to be good, and I talk about that all the
Uh,
time with you. My guys that I keep around you know, my core, group that we all like really push each
mhm.
other. Been together for years.
Yeah.
That's what I say. Like it's nothing if you don't make it with your people. So
Yeah. Yeah, I was watching John Wick 4 last night and they had a line
oh,
that friendship is meaningless in the good times. And what he meant by that is like a friend sticks around in the tough times.
it's easy
And
to be
you
friends
have
when the
certainly
money's
done that.
flowing, when the
Yeah.
jobs are coming in, and we're dicking off and woohoo. It's easy to be friends. It's hard to be
Yeah.
friends when, someone's not feeling good, someone's in a
Yeah.
low. Like
Yeah.
for some people it's hard to show up, and for friends,
Or
it's not.
even or even when I'm like wrong, like, even recently you and I were discussing money and just I was wrong, and I can say that, and I'll say it publicly. I was wrong. Lish, you hear that? And you really held such a graceful space for me to be wrong without being a pushover. But what I realized is like with your grace and just sort of checking me in reality, it gave me the space to come back. And rather than you attacking me, not that you have, but that's your method is like, yo, like, no, this is how I see it, and this is why. And here I am being reasonable. And like now Sean gets to work out all his triggers and histories and come to the present. And that's just a current specific beautiful example that we just went through a few weeks ago. And so I just wanted to highlight that in you.
Thank you. No, and that I think that just shows how tough this industry like is and because there is no like a handbook. There's no real handbook for everything. Every single project is completely different. Even if you had the same script, every single time you put it together, you'd put together a different group of people. There's a different set of
Mm-hmm.
circumstances. It's all like this. So there's no like if this then that formula in filmmaking.
Yeah.
So we're just guessing. We're all taking
Yeah.
our
Yeah.
best guess, and some people
Yeah.
are really good at it, and then
Yeah.
others we're learning. Um, and the people who are really good at it, they make $1 billion in a career.
Yeah, they do.
The Tyler Perrys and the James Camerons and those guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully we're on our way to that, my friend.
Yeah,
So
buddy.
let's start in the beginning. Your name. Everybody's had a bit of an interesting story about their name or like some anecdote, whether it be, hey, I had to compete with another actor because they had the name, or Jessica wanting to change her last name so it's more Americanized. Did you ever consider a stage name, or was there ever anything about your name as you were coming up?
Jordan Wiseley. Jordan Wiseley. And you know how many times, like I grew up in sports and high levels in a lot of them, and so the amount of times that my name was said over announce like loudspeakers
Yeah,
and
yeah.
wisely been wrong, like it's one letter off of a
I know.
super common word, and so the amount of Weasleys and that I got, and I'm like, what? So as soon as I got into showbiz, I was like, yeah, I definitely got to change this last name because Wisely just doesn't
Mm.
have like a je ne sais quoi to it, you know? And I just never could do it. I don't know. I could never part from it. I was like,
Yeah.
what am I? Like, what kind of, like, what am I? Just a Jordan? Should I just be Jordan? Should I have just been like Seal? Just been like Jordan?
Simply Jordan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or Jordan W. Period. So it'd just be Jordan
Uh,
W. But yeah, I never changed. Definitely thought about it. Never, I just could never think of anything. And then I had like 3 or 4 projects under my belt, and I'm like, well, can't lose those. Need
yeah.
every little thing I can on the resume. So it looks like I'm sticking with this.
Yeah, I know. It's funny. You have such like a pronounceable last name, but it's just interesting. I even considered a name change at one point early on. So it's just funny. It's like in retrospect, none of that should matter, but it kind of does, right? It's interesting.
Question, yeah.
We and I got you, no worries. So, guys, we had a little bit of a technical difficulty. I might edit this out, but here we are. So, we're talking about last names, names in general, but what I'm curious about is you're from Oklahoma,
hmm
right?
hmm
What was your relationship to Oklahoma growing up, and how does it differ maybe now?
Um, then it was, like, when you're little, it's all you know. So I just assumed everyone grew up in the country on a gravel road, and
Mm,
you like literally, mom and dad, we woke up with one, and they go outside, get out of here. And
same.
I was like, I thought that's what everyone did, but no, that's not that isn't, and apparently that's rare. So we would just go out and we would just play make believe. Like that was a lot of what we did. We were always like, even if we were on our dirt bikes or four wheelers, we were pretending we were chasing. It was cops and robbers. It was whatever. It was always something. Um,
Mm,
and then when I got older, like high school, I figured out, I was like, oh wow, like Oklahoma is not all there is. I definitely want to get out of here. Like I definitely want to go see other stuff. So my plan was always to use sports, get a scholarship in a school out of state, and then go live in that state. I really wanted to go to Florida. I really wanted to play baseball at Florida. So like that was like the ultimate. But didn't happen. Ended up like getting hurt, playing sports, and didn't really unfold the way I thought it was going to. And
mm.
then when I was going to school at Oklahoma State in Stillwater, I literally got I was back home. I was visiting like Oklahoma City, so I wasn't even in Stillwater, just visiting Oklahoma City, and got found, did TV, and then I was like, well, that was one way to do it.
Mm. And so now, you're in your early 30s. Do you miss Oklahoma? Like, do you have a reverence for it? Like, do you see yourself back there or back on something like Oklahoma land, maybe in a different state like Texas?
Yeah, it definitely, my sentiments definitely swapped big time. Being gone, I've been out of Oklahoma for probably 10 years, right, yeah, right around 10 years. I
Uh,
left in like 2013, 2014. And uh, couldn't wait to get out, loved being away. Now I really enjoy going back. I really enjoy the open. I love LA. I love California. I love California. Like I'm an adventurist, and you can do everything here, and everything's within a 2 mile drive.
yeah.
But there's a lot of people. It's a lot of people, so
Mm,
it's hard to find solitude and
mm,
true, that feeling of like being out there and like on your own. for a
Mm.
little while. Like if you wanted to take a ride out into nowhere. Um, and now also I look at Oklahoma as all this opportunity because going back to the film industry, in the recent years, they've really made a big push to get basically up to par with
Mm.
what Texas is doing, film industry wise, as far as their incentives. They literally just moved up to match Texas, so
Wow.
it is just the same as Austin is just the same as Oklahoma City or Tulsa at this point, and I
Wow.
see so much potential there. And something that really stands out to me is growing up my whole life, we always had downtown Oklahoma City, we always Bricktown, we always had the Cox Convention Center, right? And that's where like the Blazers played hockey, and there was basketball. If there was basketball, that's where everything kind of happened. That was like the main spot until we got the Thunder and built this whole arena. That entire convention center, local government has now, they have allowed that to be long-term leased out to a production company. So that to me
Mm.
shows how on board the local government is with the film industry, that they would lease out something that big and that integral in the structure of downtown, and they would lease that out to a production company. So they're obviously expecting something. They're wanting something. They're trying to trigger something as far as the economy is concerned. So
Mm.
I think for me now, that's such like a aha
Mm-hmm.
moment because I was considering Texas,
Mm-hmm.
because of the film incentives, and
Yeah.
uh, I do so much of our own build and design in
Mm-hmm.
production, and I want that free. So I want that space. I want to have a woodworking shop over there. I want to be able to build everything the way we want it, and kind of control that. That the biggest lesson I ever learned from, I think, one of the best mentors I've ever had in the film industry. I worked for Tyler Perry for quite a long time. Was an actor on one of his shows, and I, even when I wasn't filming, I would stay around on days, even days that I wasn't even scheduled to shoot. I would come up, I would eat with the crew, I would hang out with those guys, I would go crew, I'd go that way and just watch
Mm-hmm.
how everything was done, and then I would sit with Tyler, literally sit either right behind or right next to him. He's always so inviting. He's always like, oh, no, 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 pull up a chair here. And he will literally sit there
Mm.
and just walk you through what he's doing. And you just watch this guy work. And now you have an appreciation for what the heck he is doing. And that is when I was like, if you control everything, now you can control the tempo, the pace. You're no longer on, we had everything rented 3 weeks ahead, but we got here
Mm-hmm.
and the production before us didn't bring all the clamps back, didn't bring all the
Yeah.
C stands back. I don't care,
Yeah.
didn't bring something back. That's not my problem.
Right.
But now it is your problem.
Yeah.
So control it. So if you can control
Yeah.
that, control it. And then if you plan on doing this, just build your own stuff, and then you'll use it again.
Mm.
You'll use it again. You
Mm.
know. And nowadays there's, with all these apps and different connectors, like social connectors, for the film community, you can rent your stuff out too. There are people looking for
Yeah.
flats, there's people looking for
Yeah.
that stuff, so there are ways in the film industry to survive, right? And
Yeah.
even doing that stuff, we know, you and I know people personally who thrive renting stuff out, just renting it out.
Yeah, man. I think that's brilliant and innovative, and another way to take control of your own career. You brought up Tyler Perry. Obviously, I mean, you could argue he's like top three successful filmmakers of all time almost,
Oh yeah,
because of
I mean,
just
by the
the
numbers.
amount, by the amount of shows he's written, made. He's like Tyler Sheridan times X, 10x almost, because
Yeah.
he's just been doing it longer.
Yep.
Taylor Sheridan, excuse me. And so I want to
Yep.
talk about how you got on that show, because it seems like a, oh, lucky twist of fate. But if you actually go back to what it really is, you had to stand and fucking deliver, and you had to be good without almost any notice, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you guys meet at Soul Cycle, if I recall,
Yep.
and then he's like, "Hey, I have a part with you in mind. You want to come audition today or tomorrow, right?
It
Wasn't it
was,
quick?
yeah. He said today, he goes, here's the deal. I got to fly back to New York this afternoon or this evening. Could you come by and read for it today? This is like 9 a.m. in the morning. We're in West Hollywood. And
Yeah.
a friend, another mutual friend of ours, Frank, was teaching the class. He calls me because I got a
Mm.
bike, open bike. I got a couple open bikes. You want to come ride? I was like, yeah, I'll come ride. So I go
Hmm.
ride. And yeah, Tyler comes up and he says, yeah, can you read for it today? And I was like, yeah, I'll come. And man, on my mind, I'm like 100%. I'm gonna read for. I'm gonna make
Yeah.
myself. I will make myself available today.
That's right.
I don't care if I have lunch with
Mm.
mom. Sorry, mom. So he goes, okay, give me your number. No bullshit. Um, I know this town is a lot of talk. He goes, no bullshit. I'll have my team reach out to you and we'll set something up. I go, okay. Buddy, not 12 minutes later. I'm in the middle of telling Frank, you're never gonna believe this. Mr. Perry just told me that he's gonna have his people reach out and I'm gonna read for. He's like, no, I'm like, yeah, dude, I promise. It just happened. And then I get this call from an unknown number, but it's 404, baby. That's
Mm.
ATL. I was like,
Mm.
this seems like I should take it. This does not seem
Yeah.
like a scam. Um, so I answered it, and it was Mark Swinton, one of the head EPs at Tyler Perry
Mm.
Studios. Amazing, amazing guy. And he said, "Hey, Tyler told me he wants to set something up. Can you do 1:30 this afternoon?" I go, 100%. I can be there. He goes, "Okay. So give me your email. We'll send you a location, and and you'll be on the list at the gate. Just tell them where you're going." I go, "Okay." Drive up. I think I'm going to a studio or something. No, we're just gonna they're gonna knock this thing out. I go to Tyler's house on top of the gosh darn Hollywood Hills, and I'm riding up. And at the time I had just built my own motorcycle, right? And so I'm riding up, dude, like Denim Dan on
Yeah.
this motorcycle. I was like, shit. Oh man, I was like, I thought this is definitely not a house. So I pull up this gate and I tell him who I am, and he goes, "Yeah, Mr. Ray's expecting you. Get on up there." And I go up there and I walk in. Andy, Tyler's, lead guy around the place, brings me in. He said, "Hey, here's your script. You're highlighted. Mr. Perry will be with me about 10 minutes. So the living room is yours. Read up." Sweet. I'm just reading over this thing. Tyler comes in. Hey man, we chit chat for just a second, and he goes, okay. Now in the scene, you're talking with this guy Eddie. Eddie's background is XYZ. Let's see how you play it. And I go, okay. And we
Wow.
we proceeded to run through it about 5 times. Each time he'd give me a little direction after. He'd be like, "Hey, try it like this," and then we go. He goes, "All right, now try it like this." I go, "Okay." And after that, and he goes, "You know what, man?" He goes, "I like what you're doing. Can you be in Atlanta in 2 weeks?" I go,
Oh my
100%,
God.
100%
Yeah.
I can, Mr. Perry. And he goes, "All right, well, here's the deal. You got an agent?" Like, no, sir. I've been in LA for 6 weeks at the time.
Yeah.
And he goes, "You got an agent?" And I said, "No, sir." He goes, "Well, here's the deal. I'm gonna give you the same deal regardless if you have an agent or not. So you can you can keep the 15, 20%, or you can find somebody and they'll look it over." And you know, I go, "Okay, cool." He goes, "All right. Um, Mark will reach out and they'll get everything set up." I go, "Cool." Now, something happened, okay? And now throughout my career and leading up to this point, the 3 years leading up to this point, I had been studying at the William Esper Studio for 2 years in New
In
York.
New
At that,
York.
uh-huh.
Hmm.
At that time, I was trying to get modeling, gigs and stuff. And so I'd been in castings and been in in-person stuff and test shoots and stuff. And multiple times you get to this point of the conversation where in the audition process, casting, whatever, they say, we're having such a good time. And you know how it is in the room. If they're talking to you, this is great. This is great. Because
Hmm.
casting just wants to know, are you someone that we want to hang out with? Are you someone that we
That's
want to
right.
hang out with and give money to? Because if
Yeah.
you are, we're gonna hire you. And so
Hmm.
when you're just vibing with everybody, and then they get to this point where they go, "Oh, what happened to your hand?" And I go,
Mm.
"Fuck!" I go, "They didn't notice the whole
Mm.
time, the whole time, because normally I hold my sides in
Mm.
my left hand. which I'm just moving around. And
Mm.
if something is stuck
Yeah.
in there, people just assume there's a hand there holding it, and our eyes just say hand.
Mm.
But when I start talking, I'm a dummy. I put my sides in my pocket or something, and now I'm just
Mm.
talking. And they always get to
Mm.
this point, and it literally always is that they go, "Oh, what happened to your hand?" That's always the thing, and then like they'll maybe follow it or whatever.
Interesting.
And I go, "Oh yeah, I was born like that. Yada yada, walking through any little thing, but yeah, played sports." Blah, blah, blah. They go, "Okay, well, thank you so much for coming in. We had a great time talking with you." I'm like, "Great," and I don't ever get the job when that conversation happens. And now,
Mm.
flashback to Tyler's house. We're at the end of this thing, and he's already said everything. And he goes, "Oh, what happened to your hand?" He's sitting at his desk, and I go, "Fuck."
Yeah.
I was like, "You didn't know!" Oh! I was born like that. I mean, I said it in five, but in my mind, that's how I'm saying it. I'm like,
Yeah. Yeah.
born like that, and this was great meeting you, and thanks for the opportunity to read, but I know he'll go somewhere else. And then we do all our cordials, and he sends me out. He's like, we'll be in contact. I was like, thanks. Or I'll have so and so reach out, and we'll get all your stuff settled. I go, cool. And I leave. 2 days later, I get a call from a 404 number. That's ATL once again, and I answer it, and it is Mr. Perry himself. And he goes, "Hey man,
Uh,
I've been thinking about Ben. That was the character I'd be playing. He goes, I've been thinking about Ben and your hand." And I go, "Yep." He goes, in the script, in the normal script, I was supposed to get shot. And then there was going to be drama behind, I was going to get shot by another cop. And then there's drama behind who did it. And if I'm going to survive in the hospital to wake up
mm.
and identify the cop who did it. So that cop has to figure out how to kill me in the hospital. Couple episodes. Four. I think it was going to be like 4 episodes. And he goes, "Man, I've been thinking about Ben." He goes, he shoots you because you steal some money. You're a dirty cop too, but you steal some money. And he goes, "What I'm thinking is, instead of shooting you, maybe he just shoots your hand off." And
Wow.
that's how we write your hand in. And I go, "Mr. Ferry, you can do anything you want if you're telling me that I still have that job." And he starts cracking up laughing. He goes, "Yeah, man, you got the job for sure." He goes, "All right, cool. I'll
Uh,
see you in Atlanta. I'm excited." And I was like, "Thank you, man. Me too." I went to Atlanta, and literally that was the very first scene of the very first day, was Jordan getting his hand shot off, and it was big and fun, and
wow.
we had a hand double, and it was great.
And I gotta
Um,
say, to Tyler's credit, he was doing this before the big push in Hollywood, you could
oh
say.
God, yeah. I
And
mean, look at the amount of people that this guy found that he gave them their chance, you know,
yeah,
and
he's an
and then they go
incredible
on.
man. Incredible. And all the things you've told me about the way he even runs his sets, and it's just really incredible. And I'm so glad you had a mentor of sorts in that way, because you definitely brought that to our sets, and it was super helpful.
Oh, he is. Like I really, of course we all know of, I know what Tyler does, and the amount of work that he did, so like I was always like respectful of that, right? But
Mm,
when I saw what this guy does and what on a day-to-day basis, I mind blown. I'm like a fan for life. Like incredible. The work rate is incredible. The foresight and the brains, of what he's doing, and the people that he employs and he keeps
mm,
around, they love him because he treats them right. He treats everyone right. He's fair. The studio has a gym that everyone is free to use, a Soul Cycle studio that everyone is free to use, uh,
wow.
uh, cafeteria, breakfast, lunch, and dinner that everyone is free to use. So he is the man, and everyone works their butt off for him. This is not an exaggeration. I swear, all of you, and I don't care what you've heard in your film class, this man shoots an average of 65 pages of script a day. I did it.
And
I did it.
he you said he has like a, yeah, and I wanted to bring that up too. The work was hard, right? Like
Oh yeah.
it was like you're learning 65 pages a day. you have to be off book. He shoots lightning fast.
Yep.
He'll change stuff up, like you do his lines, right? Like
Oh,
just all
he's
sorts
giving
of.
you wild lines. His number one thing, he comes up and tells everybody this before the first day of shooting. He goes, "Hey, listen, when we're out there, when we're shooting, he goes, you do not come out of it until I say cut. Check the gate."
Mm,
And we go, okay,
mm,
because I'm telling you more often than not, definitely more than 50% of the time, definitely more than half the time, you finish something, you stay in it, and then he's gonna throw you. He goes, now tell him, bam, whatever the fuck,
mm,
and you go, whatever the
mm,
fuck, and he goes,
mm-hmm,
now slap him.
mm-hmm,
I don't
mm.
like that. Cut.
Because he knows what he's gonna use. He
He
knows what he could
knows.
use.
He
Yeah,
tells me when the first one of the biggest things I did when or he that I just like took away when I sat down with him for the one of the first times while he's directing, and I wasn't working. I was literally street clothes, and he said pull it. He goes, oh, get him a chair, and I'm literally sitting there and just watching. He goes right here. He goes, I don't need to go get. Most people go get this coverage or that. He goes, I don't need that. He goes, I know what I'm doing. He goes, shoot for your edit. Shoot for your
mm-hmm,
edit. He goes, he looked at me dead in the eye and he goes, I'm not doing this for trophies. I know what my
mm,
audience wants and I'm going to give it to them.
mm, mm.
I
Man,
said,
wise
damn,
words.
damn.
Because the audience
Man's
gave
made a
him his
billion
life.
dollars.
Yeah, I mean that the audience gave him his life.
Yeah. Mm
With
hmm.
Medea, that his story is so incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, I know we could spend literally 2 hours on just Tyler himself and your time there, but I want to sort of move on to other projects, if you don't mind.
No, yeah, because I took that into everything, buddy.
Yeah,
Everything. Like I went and hung out in the like one of my favorite places to hang out at TPS was Woodshop. I'm hanging out with
I
those guys.
bet.
I'm watching them build stuff, and now years later, like one of the main things that we do is we build sets for really big productions. So
Yeah.
I see Tyler in everything I do.
Yeah, dude. I mean, it's incredible. You're truly like one of the most gifted actors I've ever met. Your level of commitment is inspiring. Like one of the roles in particular that comes to mind. I mean, obviously, Helmet. Your monologue in Stocking Fields. I remember even you doing it in the chair, the makeup chair, and I just was like, "Oh, this motherfucker's about to crush."
Thank you,
And
dude.
like it put me on guard, and I love that because usually I'm feeling like I got this. And when another actor puts me on guard, I'm like, ooh, I'm excited. Like
Yeah.
this can be a little tit for tat here. But it was Space Juice, Alex DeMarco's Space Juice.
Yeah.
And
Oh, one of my favorites.
yeah, you're the lead, Uncle Daddy, and you film this pilot, and it's fucking incredible. So, can you walk me through a little bit of your experience in the process of that character, and
You
maybe set
know,
it up for the audience if so they know what it is?
all of the best stuff so far in my career, I'm just speaking for me, all of the best stuff that I've gotten to do has come out of nowhere. Okay. And
Mm,
we have this mutual friend who is an insanely gifted filmmaker in every facet. He's one of those guys that just commits himself to everything to know try and know at the highest level every facet of filmmaking
he's
so he can
amazing.
understand. Yeah, Alex DeMarco wrote this thing, produced this thing himself, really, really went for it. And he calls me about 7 days, 6, 7 days before first day of shooting. He goes, hey, I got this role. I got this pilot. He just says I got this role in this pilot that I'm shooting. He goes, it's yours, man. He goes like it's like I've been thinking about you for it. Like it's yours. Like I'm gonna send you the script and just read it. You're Uncle Daddy. And I'm like, cool. I read this thing. I'm like, I'm the fucking lead. I was like, huh, okay, okay, okay. And this script is wild. It's amazing. It's like one of the things that you are so excited as an actor to get. It is not for the Hallmark Channel. You know what I mean? It
No,
is not
yeah,
normal, like, good looking
yeah,
guy talking to
yeah,
girl,
yeah,
like detective talking to
yeah,
perp.
yeah.
And so I'm like, wow, this thing's out there. The man's name is Uncle Daddy. So, and very, very seriously, Uncle Daddy. So I tell him, I was like, yeah. He goes, here's my only note. You can't go. There's no such thing as going too big. So just bring it. And at this time, I was really heavy in the clothing industry. I was running. I was in the middle of running a campaign for a clothing company that I own, and
Mm-hmm.
he was like, "Hey, I trust your style, so style it however you want." And I'm like, "Oh fuck, I'm in charge of the wardrobe for this guy too." I'm
Yeah,
like, "Okay,
yeah,
okay, okay." So I was like, "I got this." So I show up in basically the wildest thing that I can think of, and I told myself showing up, I go, you're gonna have to be in it. I was from fucking Jersey. I had this whole fucking backstory where I left my fucking family over there, and I came over here because I was making fucking porn. Sorry about that, Sean. But I was making fucking porn because that's where the fucking money is, you know. And it's not disgusting. It's fucking art, you know. Because I'm not fucking jerking off this, you know. I'm fucking
yeah,
making art.
yeah,
But and I was like, 'cause the only way I can really do this is I'm just gonna have to show up and be this guy the entire time. Because there's no way that I can talk to people normal, and they're gonna talk to me about the performance that I'm doing, and I can't do that. Like
mm,
because then it'll start changing. It's got to be consistent, and that's the hardest part about doing a character is being consistent every single day. Especially if you're doing this thing for 30 days. Think about Daniel Day-Lewis. They think shoot some of these movies for a long time. He was Abe Lincoln for like
yeah,
6 months.
yeah,
Texting is
yeah,
this full though. So
yeah,
um and so I show up and I am just method this thing the whole time, and it was one of the best experiences of my life, and to have that freedom from Alex, and he just shot around it, and I guarantee you I smoked 20 years of cigarettes in that week
yeah.
of shooting. Like the
I
amount of
bet.
just, I was literally Ray Liotta from any movie in the 80s.
Yeah, it was fucking amazing. I mean, the final product's amazing. So, kudos to you on that, my friend.
Thank you,
And
dude.
then switching over to something like Helmet, which is more, which was fascinating. I directed that. Obviously, you know that, but for the audience, if they don't know, it was another TV
Yeah,
pilot,
I
and
think
like
I do remember seeing you on set. That I think about that. Yeah, yeah, you were there.
Yeah, I was there. I was there once or twice, and what was amazing, and Jordan produced it too because we literally obviously we couldn't have done the stocking fields without you. I mean, we co-created it, but it
Hmm.
it, it has to be specifically said we literally couldn't have done it without you, and it should be acknowledged, and so much gratitude and love for that. And the same
Yeah,
is for
man.
Helmet, because you showed the fuck up, you showed out. I, believe it or not, did not know what you were going to do up until our first take. If you really think about it,
Yeah,
we had
yeah,
had
yeah.
some conversations, but my instincts were I trust Jordan. I have the right guy. Whatever he brings is going to be him, and that's what I want ultimately. And you did better than I could have ever conceived in my mind. It was somewhat of a Steve McQueen era type,
Yeah. Well,
and
I'm
but
so
with
glad you referenced that.
yeah, because that's what I felt in my gut. I was like, this is like a Steve McQueen, but it's a little more contemporary in the sense because we're gonna show the cracks, whereas like Steve McQueen's era, like those guys didn't have any cracks because they
Yep.
drank it all away. And so it was interesting to see you be able to go from like Uncle Daddy, which is like wild and a 10 out of 10, and then Helmet, which I felt like wasn't necessarily a 2 out of 10, but a more grounded
It's grounded. That
performance.
was Yes, that
Yeah.
was the thing. It's just you had to ground in it, and Daddy is someone that he's reactionary. Daddy reacts to the
Mm,
moment, and that the circumstances around him dictate Daddy, and they make him. And then for someone like Helmet, it, it's he is so driven by his past, and he's Helmet's not really ever in the moment. He's in another moment, stuck for what's going to seem like an eternity
mm,
until he can figure that out. So in one way you're this free, just throwing it out there, and the other way
mm,
you just have this cloud, that you're holding on to. And it doesn't have to be a cloud always. There are other, ways to ground, but
Yeah.
For Helmet it is. It's something that he cannot conquer. Whereas Daddy
Mm.
is idiot savant. He doesn't
Mm.
realize, Daddy doesn't understand that he could fail,
I love that distinction. I really do. So let me ask you, having said that, what is your favorite part of acting, like, or filmmaking? Like, what is it for me? For example, it's like I know for acting, I'm being sort of intrinsically, meaning it within myself, rewarded or getting to play with emotions I wasn't allowed to as a child.
Mm-hmm.
And with writing, it's that's my expression, like this is me, so
Mm-hmm.
that's what writing satisfies, whereas producing's more of my like leadership, managerial side, and directing's like,
Where you can
oh,
be
I get to be
structured.
involved in all of it. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so I don't know, like what is your favorite, like why do you do it, like what
Oh
is it
yeah.
about it?
Okay, so for acting, it's the
Mm-hmm.
escapism. It's the escapism.
Mm,
We get to leave. We get to leave.
mm,
You ever wanted to be a superhero? I fucking have. You know all those times
mm.
you've lived those scenarios where you were kicking somebody's ass in the shower and you ruled that argument? Like, you
Yeah.
get to do it in real life
Yeah.
with these awesome settings around you, Like that is the
Mm,
acting. Like you get to escape. And so for the acting you're doing that, and then I get that same feeling when I watch film, right? And as an audience member, that's what
mm,
I'm looking to, is escapism. So on both sides of that, I'm looking to get out of here and go
mm.
wherever this story is taking me. And then
Yeah.
much to your writing call, production design
Mm,
that is what that is to me. It's now I get to we everybody can read the same story, but now that is a true visual represent. I get to create the visual representation of that. And I've had projects where they've given us full schematics of what they want, and that's wonderful. It never looks exactly like that, so it's still an
mm,
interpretation. And the goal is for them,
mm,
in my process, the goal is for them to always go, oh, you know what? I love that. Yeah, I didn't even think about that, but yeah, I love that. Because you
mm.
want to, I get into it, whatever project we're on, we're going to get into that era or that thing, and then I'm going to try and I'm going to think like that. And again, escapism, right? I'm getting to go create this
Mm.
other world, and while I'm building it, it's literally like in real life, coming up around me, as we put it together. Um, and then, you know what I love creating story. I am constantly daydreaming, and what I do not do well is I cannot sit my little butt down and capture those thoughts. So, that is somewhere in
Mm.
my process, creative storytelling process, that I know I have to supplement that area, right? I know
Smart.
I can't sit and write. You and I have written a feature together, and
Mm,
we did that
mm.
in such chunks. That was, because we'd leave and be like, okay,
Yeah.
you grab this scene, I'm gonna grab this
Yeah.
scene, and
Yeah.
then we'll just work out some shit for these others. And so it was little chunks,
Yeah.
and also it was so new that it
Yeah.
was that it was exciting. Now I've figured out I can't sit. I can't sit,
That's okay.
and
Yeah.
so that's where I reach out to my friends and peers and say, hey, I have a
Mm-hmm.
story. And that's where I get to be collaborative, and because I work best on building on others. That's really when they
Yes.
like pitch this, and then I go, okay.
Ooh.
And I've got such an engineering mind, especially when it comes to like the building of the thing, or
Mm.
this is really what I'm trying. How can we do this cheaper? That's where I'm like, how can we do this cheaper than industry standard? Because industry standard is not cheap. So
No, it's not.
my goal is always, how can we do this cheaper? How can we build this and not have to rent it or
Mm.
anything like that? Which I feel is going back to a product of Tyler.
Absolutely, man. And I think it must be said with the clothing company Strapped, which was like an incredible run, an
Mm-hmm.
incredible thing. Like, that's where I first really noticed, like, I don't want to throw the word around too much, but like you really have a genius eye visually. Like the clothes you designed, at least to me, the clothes you designed are like so fucking beautiful,
Thank you,
and
man.
they were actually in. It was like so weird. It was like, wow, he's hitting this on the head. He's ahead of these other big designers too, like Fear of God and these other people. We just don't have the name or the reputation,
Yep.
and it was
Super
just
similar to the
really,
film industry, right? You're
yeah,
small productions, and no matter how good your quality is you're always fighting a bigger budget. You know, like sure, I'd
yeah,
love to have 60 million, right?
yeah,
Like, but
yeah.
you know, and that's what
Do
I'd
you
love to have that marketing budget, but
do you
all we can,
think you're no? Keep going, brother.
all we can control is our creative, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's all we can control. So from that, and you used to see, we used to get super frustrated that we're trying to keep up with people that we are
Yeah,
just not on their level. We're not on their size. We're
yeah,
David and Goliath here, and it's a beautiful story, but it doesn't always work out for David.
yeah. Lots of Davids get eaten up, but that's okay. It was all good for us to learn, and
How look
I
at how
mean,
much how much did we learn from marketing those clothes that we literally applied to the marketing of
yeah,
stocking fields,
yeah,
and the social aspect and pushing it and the numbers, all that kind of stuff. Like
yeah,
it 100% is
yeah.
useful.
And life isn't over, right? Like, it can come back. So we just don't know anything. But it also, this conversation leads me to your tattoos, which, I'm a tattoo lover and you certainly are. And you have a great, again, visual eye. Like, I love every tattoo on you and where you put it. So, how do those speak to you? Because that's an art form as well.
I mean, these were something that in the beginning of the career, I'm like, don't get tattoos because you
Yeah.
won't get jobs, like so
Yeah.
modeling being in New York and everything, and I really held off. I got this one on the inside of my arm when I was 20 years old, and I was just like, oh, I'm such a rebel. I have this like such a big tattoo. And then I was like, oh man, is that gonna keep me from getting jobs, right? And then I was looking around at these dudes that I was hanging out with, and I was watching these. There was a phenomenon that happened, years back, about 2015, 2016, and bearded tattoo guys, man, did
Mm-hmm.
they explode everywhere.
Yeah,
And
they did.
that was, I was like, yo, like society don't know shit, all right, because everything eventually will be accepted. Like,
Yeah.
like if it becomes like, and I'm just like, tattoos were too mainstream to not be accepted, and now they're so accepting. We have massive stars that have these things. Tom Hardy always wears his tattoos, and
Yeah.
and then also one a big thing was I had this one on the inside of my arm when I was working with Tyler Perry. I played a cop,
Mm-hmm.
and they were like, we're gonna airbrush that because we're just gonna have all of our cops be clean. So
Mm-hmm.
even this guy got
Yeah.
airbrushed. So I go, if they're gonna be airbrushing me anyway,
Yeah.
fuck it, I'm gonna be
Yeah.
happy. And you know what? Me being happier and just letting my style go and everything resulted in more jobs. It's confident. It's
Absolutely.
confidence. That's the number one thing for anybody. I don't care what you're doing. If you're in front of or behind the camera, you gotta have confidence. You know, you gotta
That's
have
wise
confidence.
words, bro, and it's so true. You think about it from our side of the camera. If we're running casting, like for stocking fields, you don't want someone to walk in there not confident. It's like
Hmm.
you don't even. It's not even comfortable because all of
No,
a sudden you feel sorry for them.
that's the number one thing. I guarantee anybody. That I don't. I could look at everybody's tape and before COVID and everything it used to be, you were one of 700 dudes going
Yeah.
in person, and reading from the people getting put on tape. And I guarantee if we go and look through them, 80+% of them, it's just nervous energy. It's like,
Yeah.
and then you start to see these vets that you can just tell, like, this guy has done this so many times. When they walk in and they're like, hey guys, how's it going? Like, well,
Yeah.
it's been a long day. It better been a long day. Huh? Yeah, I saw that freaking line out there. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, is there any? You guys have any
Yeah.
notes? Is there anything? When they're just like, oh, okay. It's like, you know what? He seems like he's done this before.
Yeah.
That's what they're
Yeah.
saying. Because then it
Yeah.
goes back to casting is just trying to figure out who do we want to hang out with and give some money to.
Yeah, dude, I remember I booked this part for Neil Brennan, who co-created the Chappelle Show, and I was in the callback, and it was a group callback, so that means you're with fucking
Mm-hmm.
strangers. This was a commercial, but it was a weird one because they were doing like a long form commercial. It was like 7 minutes long, so it was almost like a short
That's
film. It
yeah,
was,
a short in
yeah, it was,
between.
yeah. So the you know, like Jordan's saying, and we've been saying, you can get sort of any mixed bag of confidences and experience in a group audition. And so we do the audition, and some of the people were so new that they were kind of fucking it up. I remember on one of the takes, like someone just didn't hit their last line that literally ended the whole scene.
So
And
everyone's
I'm
sitting there
sitting,
like,
and it's all this quiet beat, right? So casting and a callback, you're seeing everybody behind the camera, and I just go in character. I just go, okay, then I think we're done. And Neil starts cracking up because, like, I could have only said that from a place of experience and confidence,
I'm just like,
and
this is fine.
yeah, like we just okay. What are we doing here? And I'm sure I booked it in part because of that. Because obviously my acting like was good, like good enough. I heard that about John Hamm. Like he was frustrated before he got Mad Men, and he was talking to Randy Hiller, I believe, this big casting director, and she was like, dude, like you just got to be good enough until you fit the part exactly. Like we're
That's
just
the
looking for the
thing,
right
dude.
part. You just got to be good enough.
It ain't you. This is
Yeah.
one of those times where
Yeah,
that actually,
yeah,
it ain't
yeah,
you,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like, I mean,
yeah,
once you hit a
yeah.
certain level, once you hit that certain, like, just confidence and swagger of being able to go in there and hit your lines and stuff, then it's just about finding the part that is you. Like,
Yeah.
think about the amount of money that they are handing over for you to be a
Mm,
regular on a national TV show. That is a lot.
yeah.
That is a lot. That's
Yes.
for some people, it's a lifetime of money. So
Yeah.
they're really making sure because they're not only making sure that you can act. That's like this much, right? Do they look
Mm-hmm.
good on billboards? Do they look
Mm-hmm.
good on the 30-second and 60-second spot in between the NFL games? Do they
Yeah.
look good next to Andy Samberg or whoever
Are
they're
they gonna be
standing
a
next
team
to?
player?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. Is this someone that
Yeah.
we can have on set 5 days a week
Mm-hmm.
that's gonna show up,
Yeah.
that's gonna deliver? They're looking at all that kind of stuff. So it's not just I'm a good actor. I know my lines. You need to know.
Mm-hmm.
You need to know people.
Yeah.
The better you know people, the better
100%.
you act. So it's all
Yeah.
cyclical. It's all circle.
Yeah. So as we wrap up here in our last 10 minutes or so, I wanted to bring up your latest venture, which you were just doing triathlons at a fucking crazy clip and a high level, and I would say in some way, it's almost transitioned you beautifully into professional race car driving. So,
I know.
which is a dream, right? Because you were racing, just like triathlon's a race, and
Hmm.
you've always been racing in one way or the other, whether it's yourself or people. So, you want to talk a little bit about this dream coming true? Because I know we've talked about it privately, and it's like a bewildering. Like,
Yeah,
is this really happening?
Steve McQueen is one of those guys that I have just always idolized. And listen, say what you will about everything, but when just as a kid looking at this figure, this
Yeah,
icon of amazing actor, and he wasn't just like a good looking actor. He was considered a fucking thespian, like he was
yeah,
an
really
actor.
good actor.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so he was great at every craft he did. When he was acting, he was great at it. When he directed, he went for it.
Mm,
When he raced cars, he actually raced cars professionally against real professionals, not just rich people driving cars. Like everything he did, he went for it. When he rode motorcycles and raced motorcycles, he raced them. He raced those races and put his body out there. And those experiences in turn let him be truer and more honest on camera,
mm,
right? And then it just that is and
mm-hmm.
that is what I want to be. And when I look at the guy,
We lost Jordan, guys. I bet his phone died. Gonna stop right here.
so to bring McQueen current and everything like now, that's guys like Peter Berg and to an extent Mark Wahlberg, where these guys like dive in. Emil Hirsch, they dive in and like do these things. And
Mm.
and Peter puts his actors like through the real stuff. And a movie that had such an impact on my life. I loved racing as a kid. Days of Thunder, Tom Cruise, Nicole
Hell yeah,
Kidman.
Robert
And
Duvall.
dude, this guy, Cold Trickle, rolls in on a motorcycle. I grew up on motorcycles. He rolls in, he gets in another guy's car, and he fucking spins this thing, sets the lap breaker, and they're like, "Well, I guess we're going racing." And I have had I'm dropping the hammer, Harry. No, you're not. That is not your race car. And he's like, "What? What?" He's gone.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And he took his fate. Cole Trickle took his fate into his own hands. Right? He had an opportunity and he
Mm.
seized it. Had he just chilled out, and they would have been like, "Yeah, yeah, you know how to handle a race car. You kept it out of the wall. Good job." But he didn't. He fucking sent it. He sent it, and he
Mm-hmm.
might have put it in the wall, but if he might not. And would you ever
That's right.
get that opportunity again? Right? So
Mm.
I've always, had this spot for race, and this scene has always lived in my head. And I got the opportunity to work with Hyundai, and they reached out and they're like, "Hey, we love what you're doing. We want to partner up with you and send you a car." And I said, "Yeah." And I knew that Hyundai has a really great race team that races on the IMSA circuit, which is huge, which is actually where Steve McQueen raced. He raced endurance racing, and
Wow.
this is Sebring and Le Mans and Daytona and these iconic tracks. And they I knew they had a race team, so in my mind I was like, I want to partner with them, and I want to be at all their races, and I want to talk to these guys, and I want to get back into racing. And
Mm.
through the course of a year, did this and would go to different races and different drivers camps and things like that, and hang out with them and post and just having a good time, but just being friendly and talking to them. And uh, at Daytona earlier this year, one of the team owners, Bob Diley, he said, Jordan, if you want to come out to one of our test days, we'll put you in a car, and we'll let you go have some fun. I go, absolutely, Bob, 100%. So he does. Bob comes through. He calls me about a week or two later. He's like, "Hey, we're gonna have these test days. If you want to fly in, like, well, we got an extra car, a lower end car than their like full on race cars. We'll
Yeah.
put you in and you can go have some fun." I go, "Cool." Bob let me put 323 laps on one of his spec racer Fords. And by the end of that 320 laps, I had went a second faster than one of his pro drivers in that car. And they were like, "Well, Jordan, if you really want to do this, you should hop in the big car and let's see what you can do." And I go, "Uh-huh, okay." So I did. And now I'm Cold Trickle. I'm like,
That's
this is
right.
this is your moment,
And,
buddy.
and it should be said that you're always racing. Like anytime I'm in your car, you're up on Mulholland, you're thinking racing lines.
Always. You can't
Like
not.
you've been doing you do it all the time, like it's in your
Hmm.
blood. So none of this surprised
Yeah,
me when I heard it, but it might surprise a regular person. But you're always
but
racing.
racing was to part of my life from age like 8 or 9 to age about 14, because that's when I became a freshman in high school, and then
Mm,
my father was like, "Well, okay, now you got to focus on real sports because we're working on scholarships, so no more racing, no more getting hurt, things like that." So I hadn't done any racing of any kind other than triathlon, other than like
mm,
human powered devices.
yeah, yeah,
And until Bob was like, "Come out and get in this car." And to be fair, I'd never really been in a race car, or a road racing car. I was always
yeah.
like dirt track kind of stuff. And so first time in that
Mm,
car, and I was just like, "Here it goes." And I was like, "This is my chance." And don't mess this up. One, don't put it in the wall and cost this guy lots of money.
mm,
And two, don't waste this. So pay attention, lock in, and number one, go have
yeah,
some fun. So don't be in your head.
yeah,
And
yeah.
sent it, then got in the big car and sent that, and was on pace with our drivers, and now we are looking for which race will be the proper race for me to make my pro debut on the IMSA series this year. So
Oh my
we
God, man!
literally
Congrats,
we
brother.
literally from film to real life, it all matters, it all inspires and moves. And You
Yeah,
know,
literally did.
I've been working on I've got a couple of projects that I'm working on that are very car and
Mm-hmm.
automotive intensive, so draw inspiration from everywhere. Do what you
Mm.
know. That's the thing, is do what you know,
Mm-hmm.
because that's what you'll do well.
Wise words, Wiseley.
Thank you, buddy.
I'm going to wrap it up here because I want to honor your time today. So, as I've been doing, I just want to wrap it up with some love. Like I said, dude, I mean, I don't think there's a more multi hyphenate person I've ever met. But beyond that, your heart is so big and you're such a generous soul, such a sweet, thoughtful guy. And I fucking love you, dude. And
Thank you.
thank you so much for being in my life and always having my back and always just being stand up, man. Like, really, it's a constant lesson for me. And it's just great to be with you and know you. So thank you.
Thank you, man. I really, really, really love the relationship that we've had. Long time, known each other a long time, and we've seen it. We watched each other go through it, and that's what we talked about
Hmm.
from the beginning. You gotta be you gotta be a friend when it's hard to be a friend. And we
Yeah.
we built.
Yeah, man.
It's awesome that we've, built that trust, because that you have to have that when we're out here putting our dreams, and our livelihood on the line, and I will always do that with you.
Thank you, man. Thank you. Well, I'm going to stop the record and then we can debrief for a
Cool.
second.